Gordon.
I mean, if you technically, if you sat there and you look at it closely.
All right. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 28th, 2023 City Commission meeting. I'm your mayor, Chris Villa, and I call this meeting to order. Val, please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio? Commissioner Johnson? Here. Mayor Villa?
Here. And before we move on, Commissioner Danio is dealing with emergency with his wife, as I understand it. So I would entertain a motion for his excused absence tonight.
So, second.
We have a motion to excuse Commissioner Danio from Commissioner Johnson, a second from Commissioner
Curry.
I almost said Penny, sorry. Got two pennies up here. It gets confusing. With that, we'll open this up to public comment. Would anybody like to make a comment on the motion? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. All those in favor of excusing Commissioner Danio tonight, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries 4-0. And now I will ask you all to please stand for the invocation led by Commissioner Penny Curry and continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, we pray this evening for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put the interest of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person. Be with our first responders and keep them safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get that from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry. And before we start tonight, on our agenda tonight, the last item, 817 Magnolia Avenue side setback variance request. The applicant requested, since the whole commission isn't here, that we push it off to the next meeting. So if you were here for that, to speak on that, I will allow you to come up to speak if you wish during public comments, which we're about to do, but otherwise that is going to be pushed off to the next meeting. So with that being said, we'll move to our public comments, and this is the audience's opportunity to speak about anything not on our agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the commission? Seeing none, I'll close public comments, and we will move to the approval of the minutes from November 14th, 2023, regular city commission meeting and CRA meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Penny. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries 4-0. Now moving to our consent agenda, items 1 through 7. Would any commissioner like to remove an item from the consent agenda? The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless the city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the commission about anything on our consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, I will close public participation and entertain a motion for approval of our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Vice Mayor Penny and a second from Commissioner Curry. No discussion is required, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries 4-0. Number 5 on our agenda tonight is our regular agenda, and the first one is Resolution 2023-R-77. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2023-R-77 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving an agreement to transfer the city interest in real property located at 921 Daytona Avenue to the other owners pursuant to certain terms and conditions, providing for severability, providing for conflicting resolutions, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Forte.
Mayor, so the real estate property located at 921 Daytona Avenue has a residential duplex, which was effectively subdivided by the prior owners by the execution of deeds transferring each unit to different owners. The subdivision was not approved by the city. On or about June 21st of 2023, the owners of one of the residential units of the duplex Unit A executed and recorded a quitclaim deed transferring their interest in said property to the city of Holly Hill. The owners never communicated with the city prior or after this transfer. The city never agreed to accept this transfer, and the city has no interest in retaining ownership. The city cannot sell its interest in the property because of the unapproved subdivision. As owners of real estate property, the city is exposed to potential liability, including code violations and personal injuries. The city manager has been in communication with the owner of the residential unit of the duplex in Unit B and his brother, who are willing to accept the transfer of the residential unit transfer to the city on certain terms and conditions, as more specifically outlined in the agreement between the city and the owners attached to this agenda item. The transfer will include an execution of an agreement, a quitclaim deed, and a unity of title. So upon approval of this, the documentation, the quitclaim team will remain in possession of the city attorney, kind of in escrow, until they agree to, and what's spelled out in the agreement, until they bring the property up to code and they kind of correct the code violations that exist on the property.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. Are there any questions from this commission for staff? All right, with that, we will open this up to the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Johnson. Is there any discussion needed? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries 4-0. And before we move to number 2, I should have said at the beginning as well that originally there was going to be another item coming to this commission that went to the BOPA about townhouses off of Center Avenue in Anastasia. So if anyone is here to speak on that, that is also going to be pushed to the next agenda. I don't think anyone is, but if you are, you can raise your hand if you needed to speak about that, but I don't see anybody here to speak on that. So just wanted to say that. I forgot to mention it at the beginning. Now we'll move to number 2, which is a request for code enforcement lien reduction, 1373 Powers Avenue. Mr. Forte.
Yes, Mayor. The city received a request for reduction of a code enforcement lien that was placed upon the real property located at 1373 Powers Avenue. The owner of the property is Brittany Nicole Elgin, who has owned the property for many years. The property was cited for several violations dating back to 2016. Many of the violations had been corrected, and Ms. Elgin contacted the code office to request an inspection. However, the request was never documented, and it did not occur. A lien was filed for these violations and accumulated over time. However, it was determined that the lien was filed incorrectly. Therefore, those liens have been released. In 2021, Code Officer Kyle Mahanes visited the property and noted code violations involving a fence, which is part of the original lien. The fence violations remained out of compliance until September 21st, 2021. A lien was filed and accumulated to an amount of $44,000 as of the compliance date. The property was brought into compliance on September 21st, 2021, and is eligible for consideration by the City Commission for a reduction of the lien. The original total lien balance was $44,475. We do the typical percentage reduction down to 10% of the lien, plus the administrative costs. I'm recommending that the lien be paid off at the cost of $4,905.80. I contacted the property owner, and they have agreed to pay that amount, and that amount would be paid by December 29th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. Are there any questions for staff? Okay, we'll open this to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? All right. Is the owner here, Joe?
No,
Okay.
typically if an owner agrees, I told them it's not necessary for them to come unless they want to dispute the amount.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing none, I'll close public comments, and I will entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion on that.
All right, we have a
I'll
motion.
second.
We have a motion to approve the lien reduction as stated by Mr. Forte from Commissioner Johnson, and a second from Commissioner Curry. I almost said Penny again, I'm so sorry.
You are having problems with my name?
Yeah, there we go. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Now we're going to move to our public hearings tonight, and we have one public hearing, that is ordinance 2023-0-3067 for first reading. Mr. Simpson.
Ordinance number 2023-0-3067 by title only for first reading. An ordinance to the City of Holly Hill, Florida, regulating mobile food vehicles, amending Section 114-904 of the City Code, providing for codification, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, the floor is yours.
Yes, Mayor, Commission. Back on October 25th, 2016, in response to the growing popularity of mobile food trucks and the mobile food market, the city adopted an ordinance, Ordinance 2981, that created Section 114-904 of the City Code. And this essentially was the establishment of our operating procedures for the mobile food market. An update to that section, Section 114-904, was adopted by the City Commission on March 10th of 2020. Then, a few months later, in July of 2020, the state adopted legislation which preempted certain powers of local government to regulate the mobile food industry. Updates to the city's code are needed in order to now comply with state requirements and also to consider some other general changes to the mobile food vending code. That's the purpose of this proposed ordinance. Much of the current ordinance is preserved in the proposed ordinance, but there are some key changes. Perhaps the largest has to do with the number of days that a site can host a mobile food vendor. Current regulations state that no site may host a mobile food vendor for more than 3 days per week and for no more than 4 hours per day. The proposed ordinance allows an additional day for a total of 4 days per week and further allows mobile food vendors to operate from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday. So basically, this means that a mobile food vendor can operate during a 4-day period, and on one of those days, on either a Saturday or a Sunday, can operate from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Weekday activities are still restricted to a maximum of 4 hours of operation. The ordinance also clarifies and simplifies language and makes changes to come into compliance with state law. Specifically, it eliminates the city's requirement that mobile food vendors register with the city and pay a permit fee to operate within the city. These activities are now preempted to the state. Based on this, staff recommends that the City Commission adopt an ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, regulating mobile food vehicles, amending Section 114-904 of the City Code, providing for codification, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Brian, is there any questions for Mr. Walker?
I think we pretty much hashed this one out.
We did, and I appreciate you presenting this to the BOPA. I listened back to that discussion as well, and I'm going to bring that up in my ending comments because it doesn't have to do necessarily with this ordinance, but I appreciate you working on this for us. Thank you very much. All right, with that, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Vice Mayor Penny, a second from Commissioner Curry. We know how Daniel would have voted if he was here, but I guess he's not here to put the no on record, but is there any discussion needed?
We've had plenty of discussion about this.
Yes, we have. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for bringing this to our attention, that we could always tweak things as we go along, and I think that that's, what government should be doing, is looking at existing laws and how to make it better for our citizens and our business owners. So I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. With that, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries 4-0. And now we're going to move to our communications. We'll start with our city manager, Mr. Forte.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure you'll take care of the announcements of the activities this weekend, so I won't mention any of that. I do want to see if the commission would be open to a work session next month before the December meeting. There are a number of items that I'd like to discuss and get some direction from you. It includes revisiting the incentive agreement we have with the rock climbing business that was going to construct in the 600 block of Ridgewood Avenue. I want to talk a little bit about the concerts that we do over at Pictona. Right now, where Rick Hamilton is coordinating that for us. He's looking to transition out next year, so I want to talk about options for that position. And then I want to talk about the folks at Pictona expanding their activity center to include Sika Hall and possibly the Chamber Building for some expansion of their programs. And then also, we had talked about a little while ago a Pictona identity, slogan, name. We want to throw that on that list as well. And of course, if any of you have any items that you need to bring up and discuss, we'll get some direction before the end of the year so that we can kick next year off with some clear direction.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Forte. Is that it?
That's all that I have, yes.
So, yes, I think we should have that workshop. Is anybody opposed to that?
I'm okay.
Do you think an hour suffices?
It always depends on the conversation, but it should.
Yeah, I know, that's a lot of things. Let's see.
There's a lot of things.
Honestly, the incentive of the rock climbing, I think that's going to take some time. The Pictona thing, I think, can take some time.
We'll do what we can, and what we can't, we'll move off. We'll try to prioritize it that night.
That's true, actually. We could start it at 5 and then go after the commission meeting if we can't get it all done.
Okay.
Is there any objection to that?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
City manager. You say that rock climbing is going to be at 6 in Ridgewood, right?
It's in the 600 block of Ridgewood, kind of behind the Dollar General going north.
Now, the old abandoned bank building with the giant parking lot, is that 6?
No, yes, that's
No, that's Fifth.
that's Fifth Street.
That's Fifth. That's going to be a medical marijuana place.
No, it's.
No, it's the old bank, that is going to be a CBD.
Yeah, that's at 6th and Ridgewood. It's
Yeah.
across from the dollar store.
Yeah. It's north of that. It's like 627 Ridgewood is the,
It's the old trailer park that
Yeah.
torn down years ago.
Remember where the old Brass Works building was?
So it's going to be actually north of the old abandoned bank building?
Yes.
Yeah.
bank building is south of 6th Street, and this property is north of 6th Street.
So it's not going to be on the corner of 6, it's going to be up the rock climbing. It's up a little bit north of.
Yeah, the Dollar General is on the corner, and then this property kind of wraps the Dollar General. It has access off of 6th Street and Ridgewood.
Still in the works, huh?
It is in the works, yeah. There's just some changes to it.
Is that all, Commissioner Johnson?
One other thing, I'm just getting so tired of listening to someone tell me all the time that Holly Hill is becoming a drug-friendly city. And it is getting the name of a drug-friendly city because of what's going into 6th Street and what's going in just north of 9th Street, I guess, up, and all that and all that. I just wanted to kind of pin it down to exactly what was where. Is it going to be a drug-friendly city because of what's going into 6th Street,
No,
bank building?
we're certainly not a drug-friendly city. In fact, our police department is highly opposed and working against illegal drugs in the city. What we have are a couple of businesses that are approved not only by the state but by the city commission to allow for CBD and medical marijuana. And the one in the 900 block that I think the sign says Dr. Marijuana, Dr. something like that, is a licensed doctor that can prescribe THC for patients through using medical marijuana. And then the other facilities, like True Leaf, we have up on Nova Road, is it True Leaf?
No, it's Vitacan.
Vitacan, thank you. Vitacan is a medical marijuana dispensary. And then you have other smoke shops that are legally able to dispense CBD, which is a non-THC or a low THC product.
I think Commissioner Penny ought to get back on the speaking terms with the pastor, so he won't pick on me so much.
No, he's picking on me, but
He is.
On you too.
I just have to go on record that when the vote was put up on the state level to legalize medical marijuana, Volusia County overwhelmingly approved it, and the residents of Holly Hill, I think, approved it 70+%.
70 plus.
75%.
So we listened to our constituents and allowed it anywhere a pharmacy can go. So that's our job, is to, if they tell us they want it, we're supposed to give it to them, right?
Well, and let me, I want to expand upon that too, because I was copied on some emails too, and just to be clear,
I
there's,
didn't get emails, I get voice commands.
oh, he calls you? Well, there's one pastor that's upset with marijuana facilities in the city, and what I would say to him, and I haven't responded to him because I refuse to, and because of things that he has said about the commission that are completely false, utterly
Actually
false.
blocked him.
And, but as you stated, Mr. Penny, if he has a problem with it, take it up with the state. As you alluded to, at the time when the law was passed to allow dispensaries in Florida and to legalize medical marijuana, that wasn't a city decision. But we take the standpoint of allowing the open free market to work here in the city of Holly Hill, and decided not to necessarily ban those places. A lot of people, and I know some people that get a lot of great health benefits from that, and do not get high or anything like that. But to say in his email that he sent that the city is drug-friendly is a ridiculous statement, as I know none of us up here are advocating for drugs whatsoever. In fact, I know, most of us, been involved in youth sports, and I know you through the police, explorers, these are organizations that try to keep kids away from drugs, and so it's ludicrous to even say that. Some people think that we are superheroes and we control every single thing, and that the chief of police is, in control of every single speeder that's ever sped in their entire life. It's just not true. And so we can only affect what we can up here, and policy-wise. So, what I would say, Commissioner Johnson, is let those fall on deaf ears, listen to them, hear them, and if he has a problem with it, take it up with the state.
It just bothers me that he tries to spread the word around that that's what we are. I try to spread the word around as what's more sports-friendly. In fact, I've spent a lot of money to make that happen.
You have, yeah.
But he's trying to turn it around the other way. And some people want to tell you what they want you to hear, but they don't really want you to tell them back anything. And I've explained that to you. Sometimes, Pastor, you got to stop and listen. That doesn't work.
I don't know how many people are listening to him.
Huh?
I don't know how many people are actually listening to him.
I do.
And Mayor, I would
Yes, sir.
just like
Yes,
to
ma'am.
add, our police department, we get the emails. They work with the Drug Task Force in
Yeah.
Volusia County, and I don't want to say all the time, because, it's not, we do,
Pushing us, but
everywhere has a drug problem,
he's not saying anything about illegal drugs.
but
He's saying about that marijuana is making us a drug addict.
But we're not a drug-friendly city if our police department's going out and busting people for drugs.
Nope. All right, I think we gave him more than enough
I
time to
agree.
respond to that, so.
That's why I blocked
Let's get back on task here, and the question before us, nobody objects to 5 o'clock, December 12th, before the commission meeting, the workshop, correct? Seeing nobody objecting, we're good to go on that, Mr. Forte. Do you have anything else for us?
No, that's all, thank you.
All right, and we started with you with some comments tonight. Mr. Johnson, if you'd like to continue your comments now.
Yeah, no, I already brought that part up, so I don't have to comment on that. And tonight, I guess they're doing maintenance on the fields in Ormond, so Volusia Sports Center is hosting all the practice sessions tonight for the baseball. They're having a big baseball tournament this weekend in Apopka, I believe it is. So they're hosting a practice session for it, so if anyone likes to get out a little bit early and run by that and see what they're doing, see what the kids actually do in there, it's really a nice thing to see, you know.
Good stuff.
They'll do it. And you know, the other thing is like saying the same old, same old. And this last weekend, on the holiday weekend, LPGA is a nightmare sometimes. I made a mistake. I was going to the tournament in Vera this weekend. I made a mistake of going out that way and going to Buc-ee's. It took me a half hour to 45 minutes. I didn't realize there was that much traffic till I'd already made the turn too late. And it took me half hour to 45 minutes to get through Buc-ee's. There's so much traffic. And they're all coming off I-4 coming into Buc-ee's. It's ridiculous. So we just need to keep pushing for LPGA, and I think we will.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. And sorry, Scott, I skipped over you. Do you have anything tonight? No?
Nope.
Val, do you have anything? Do you want to? Okay, all right. So I will talk about this Friday night. We want to welcome you all here at City Hall at 6 o'clock for the tree lighting ceremony. Thank you so much, Val, for all the work that you put into that. I know that we have some great groups coming, and we have Mrs. DeSorba, who is the, remind me her title? Miss World America. That's amazing. So she'll be there helping us turn on the lights. And then the next morning, we have, of course, the longest running Christmas parade in the county. So you all are welcome to that.
Starts at 10.
Starts at 10 a.m. Yep, same parade route as normal. And speaking of the parade, I just wanted to bring up something to this commission. So as far as I understand it, we don't have any rules set in stone for the parade. And so there has been another group that in times past were doing things that weren't so family friendly, and in a previous year, we were able to ask them not to return. And in fact, this year, as I understand it, they are returning, understanding the rules and you know, how to go about their performances. But I thought that maybe after the first of the year, we could take it up, and I wanted to talk to our attorney about creating some rules, some guardrails, putting it on paper. And the reason is that I have been contacted several times by several victims that were taken advantage of from a quote-unquote contractor, and I don't want to get into the legality one way or another. That's not our job. But in a previous parade, they were tossing out dollar bills, and people were kind of running after them. Kids were, at least I saw that happen, and I thought that it created an unsafe environment. So when I talked to the city manager about it, we aren't necessarily, we don't have the mechanism to ban them from coming in to the parade. But I don't know if we could put together some rules that the city, under our discretion, allow people or not allow certain people or businesses to be in the parade. And I know I'm just springing this on you, Mr. Simpson, so you may have to look up some case law, but I just wanted to bring it up to the commission. I think that we should put some general guardrails up, because then we'll be able to fall back on that in future years when there's a problem with a certain business, or if they're under investigation or whatever you have. I just don't want us to be in the position of telling someone they can't participate and then us get sued for any type of discrimination in any way. So wanted to bring it up. If anyone wants to comment on it, you can comment on it in your own time, but that's something I want to ask the city attorney to help us with, and after the first of the year, we can come back and revisit it in a workshop. The other thing that Vice Mayor brought up last time, we need the Citizen of the Year, and it kind of begs the question, I think we got to really do it by tonight, right, Joe? I didn't talk to you about this. Does it have to be by next?
No,
Okay.
not really.
it has to be by next
We're going to
meeting?
need to talk about this a little further, because really what it comes down to is it typically gets announced at the State of the City address. What we were doing in the past was we were allowing the current year's Business of the Year or Citizen of the Year to serve as the Grand Marshal, but we have a
Right,
Grand
last
Marshal
year.
this year, so we
Right.
don't have to worry about that for timing purposes.
Right.
But we need to be talking about how we're going to do the State of the City next year, and typically at that chamber breakfast is when we announce those recipients, and with the chamber disbanding, we just need to figure out what we're going to do.
Well, what I'd like to do is, since the next meeting will be our last meeting of the year, is I'd like to have that set in stone. So if anyone can bring a candidate for Citizen of the Year back by next meeting, I have one in mind tonight, but I can wait till next meeting, kind of let everybody come up with one, we can talk about it. And then the question remains too, and maybe it's for you, Vice Mayor, being on the board of the chamber, are they going to name a Business of the Year this year, or can we take that over as a commission?
That question was brought up at the last official board meeting of the chamber, and there was no answer. So I think the organization is disbanding effective December 31st, but for all practical purposes,
It's
Done. Okay.
it's floating out aimlessly.
Well, let me throw something out there that we can discuss on in the next meeting. I know that you all know Fast Signs and Carmen Ruiz there. She has done an amazing amount of stuff for the community, especially this year, and is helping us with a project with books and things like that. They're a Holly Hill business. I'd love to throw their name in the hat for Business of the Year if the chamber's not going to do it. I think that they should get some recognition, so.
Can you tell us who you're thinking about Citizen of the Year so that?
Yeah,
Because
so-
we can't talk about it.
Yeah, and it's tough.
I don't want to vote on it tonight, but.
Right. It was the same as last year, Leslie Graham. I think you know her, she lives in your district. She talked to you about the fences in that.
Oh, yeah.
That area down there. I know she volunteers at some of the police events. I don't know if all of them, or I know the last couple she has. They're always looking for opportunities to serve the community. So that was off the top of my head, my first one. So, but you can kick around some other ideas as well. And I'm sure there's people out there that are doing great stuff that I'm just not seeing yet. So, all right, with that, I'll move to the next one that I have here. So our second meeting of December is December 26th. And traditionally, Joe, we, as a commission, formally cancel that. So can we go ahead and cancel that tonight? Can I ask for a motion for that?
Absolutely.
All right. So being that traditionally that second meeting usually falls on or right around Christmas, this one's the day after Christmas. Don't believe we'll have any business to take up. If there is any business that needs to come up, we can have a meeting. I can call an emergency meeting within 24 hours and we can have a meeting here. So with that, I'll open up a motion to approve or motion to cancel the second meeting in December, which is December 26th.
So moved. Excuse me, so moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Penny. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this motion? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries
Remember to tell
4.
Danny, oh.
Yeah, motion carries 4-0. Just tell Danny it's canceled. I'm sure he probably assumes.
Wait for him to show up that night.
Yeah, that'd be bad. And then, well, let me go to both of your comments, and then I have one more comment to bring up at the end. Commissioner Penny.
Just want to announce again that December 9th at 9 a.m. is the Christmas Club packing event at R&R Industries,
10 a.m.?
9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m.
If you show up at 10, we should be almost done.
So 10 a.m. it is.
10 a.m. Yeah, no, 9
a.m. for the record.
We'll be packing 1,000 boxes to be distributed amongst the east side of Volusia County.
Good stuff.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Curry?
I would like to remind everybody about the art show on December 9th and 10th at Sunrise Park. So it should be it's always been a really nice event, a lot of nice work. I've always enjoyed going and taking a look at everything. I thought you had something to say the way you were sitting up.
I do, I'm waiting to get the mayor to recognize me.
Well, I was trying to pause for you. He can recognize you.
Yes, Mr. Forte.
The art festival reminded me that, last week, there was a tournament at Pictona, and due to the rain and the limited parking, they took it upon themselves to park along the front lawn of City Hall, which went very well. They didn't damage anything. It was coordinated. It was neat. It was orderly. There's no problems whatsoever. But we are running into parking problems, and they have asked to use the front of City Hall lawn should they not be able to park in the areas where they have designated. And the weekend of the art festival, there's another tournament, so parking is going to be at a premium. So my concern is, at some point, we're going to need to address some kind of parking, maybe at the rear of Public Works property. But I think they're going to start utilizing the front lawn, and I don't want the front lawn to start to deteriorate, especially we're going to have that monument put up there, and I think it needs to start to look a little bit more pristine for that purpose. I just want to bring that to your attention.
And Joe, make sure if the Christmas lights are up that
They
they're
can't
not.
park out there.
Yeah,
at Christmas.
they know.
Okay.
They know they can't do anything until January,
Oh, okay.
until after January, yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Curry, the floor is yours.
I actually don't have anything else, Mayor.
All right. All right, let me get back to what I was going to bring up. So I listened to the BOPA meeting, Board of Planning and Appeals meeting from earlier this month, and I encourage you all to listen to it. I spoke to their city manager about a couple concerns I had with the board in particular, and I wanted to ask our attorney here today, as I know you help with the meeting, make sure it stays legally right. Two different items, two different times of the meeting that bothered me was after they voted, they stopped and all of the members began to discuss what they had just voted on. And the thing that I found most egregious about that is that there were several really good questions from members that took place after they had voted. They didn't ask those questions before they voted. They asked very valid questions after that. Judging from the way that they were speaking about it, some of the members like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. So number one, is it appropriate after a board takes a vote on an item to then discuss it further and to ask further questions? Is that appropriate in Robert's Rules of Order?
Yeah, they can still discuss it. I'd have to look to see what the procedure, if they wanted to bring it back to change their vote, there may be a procedure they have to discuss about. But basically, once the board is in a sunshine meeting, once they have an advertised meeting, they're allowed to talk about whatever they want once you're in a meeting.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's not efficient, and I think that moving forward, I think that if the commission agrees with me, I think that you should maybe at the next meeting talk about this to where, there's been several times where they go ahead with something and then they vote, and then after the fact, they discuss it. And especially with these two items that I found just, it wasn't just a flippant comment. Sometimes someone says a comment afterwards. It was full discussion happening outside of voting procedure, debate procedure. And look, as the mayor of the city, I didn't appreciate the board acting in that way. If I was chairman of that board, I wouldn't have allowed that conversation to happen. And I think that those board members need to be encouraged to ask those questions before they're ever even going to vote, because those were important questions they were all asking on two different items. And on one particular one, it was, there was even back and forth from the audience. Luckily, some of that audio was picked up of what the audience was saying after they were getting up to leave. But I just thought that I should have it addressed. I'm going to, if you think it's appropriate, I would also like to speak to the chairman of the board.
You can certainly talk to the chairman.
Okay.
That's not a sunshine issue.
To keep the reins on the meeting. but allow for that conversation to have all the commissioners here know, if there's a question, if you want to say something, I will never hold you back, even if I disagree. That needs to be the culture there. Yes, sir, you have something?
Joe picked up his Robert's Rule of Order book, but I believe, once a vote's taken, if someone on the prevailing side of the vote wants to bring it back,
Correct.
then, so if
Then they can.
one of the votes was 3-2. One of the votes was 3-2.
Yep.
So if one of the three had said, oh, wow, I didn't realize that, I hadn't thought of that, they could recall the question. I don't know if they can recall it at that meeting or if it has to be the next meeting, but someone on the losers can't bring it back, but someone on the winners can bring it back.
Right,
So-
you're right. And it wasn't necessarily so much that, it was just that there was good discussion that happened after the vote. And it boggled my mind because those were questions that should have gone into the debate, should have gone into the question time, and could have really swayed some members up
Decision.
there. Yeah, really.
I would probably say, what you're saying is, that your question is, why didn't they ask those questions during the time that it could have, before the vote, and it would have possibly influenced the outcome of a vote? I have no answer for that.
Right.
And there's no way I or Brian or anybody staff can say, hey, you didn't ask this question. We don't know what they're thinking.
Right.
So, obviously, they need to be encouraged to get all your questions answered before it goes. And then the only other thing is the chairman can just say, there is no, once a motion has been voted on, we're done discussing.
Right.
And I mean, he could say that, we're not going to talk about it anymore, it's over, it's done, we're moving on. And not allow any further discussion. Now, is it a violation of the law to have the discussion? I don't think so. I mean, because it's that kind of discussion that could lead to what Commissioner Penny just brought up, a motion for reconsideration by the prevailing side.
Can it happen in that same meeting?
I'd have to look at the Robert's rules and see.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's either the same meeting or for sure by the next meeting. But it could be during that same meeting.
Okay.
And there's so many versions of the Robert's Rules of Order out there.
Yeah. I just think that it needs to be said, and maybe you could, as the leader of that board. I know Mr. Walker also helps lead that
One
board.
of the things
but-
I'm doing, and it was discussed, I think, last meeting, that, because we had a new member, and I mentioned talking about giving kind of an update on the rules, the difference between, not just the Sunshine Law, Public Records Law, but the difference between quasi-judicial and legislative policy setting, and just kind of talk about the different issues, variances, special exceptions. And they still want me to go ahead and do that. And so that would be an opportunity for me to incorporate that discussion into that presentation.
Okay. The other thing that bothers me, and I'll speak to him personally about this, is the chairman, when he tells someone to sit down, the way he says it, and I know him to be a good man, but he will ask for audience participation. People who are for, you will come up and speak. And many times someone will get confused, they'll come up to speak, and he will talk down to them from up here. That just bothers me that it's a representation of the city. I think it's a personal thing that I could speak with him about if you deem that appropriate. But it's really rubbed me the wrong way. I know in this last meeting, he told somebody to sit down very adamantly and spoke Spanish to him and then made him immediately get back up. I think a lot of times it's easy to read the tea leaves of who's for or against. I don't know if we can have the authority to say, just open up public comment, let them come up.
I'd have to look to see.
I don't know why he has to go for or against. We don't do that here. I mean, you can get through it all. Just they'll say what they're for when they get up.
I do know that the chairman is a stickler on that issue. He says, okay,
He is, yeah.
everybody speaks for, and someone gets up and they start speaking against. They say, wait a minute, you're speaking against, please sit. I want this for now. And it could be, no one else stands up to speak for, and okay, now you can get back up and speak against. But that is not new. That is something.
Yeah, I remember when I was on the board, it happened a couple of
It's
times.
consistently kind of been that way.
Okay, all right, well,
But it would
I
be
just,
completely appropriate for you to talk about it
okay,
with him one-on-one. And
good.
probably wouldn't be inappropriate for the the commission could probably, even if it's addressed by ordinance, if it says in there that the planning board adopts their own rules of procedure, well, that's your ordinance that says that.
Okay.
So you could have, this commission could have changed their ordinance to say, these are the rules of procedure that will be followed by all boards. Just adopt one uniformly.
Okay. And I think we'll pause on that. I think a conversation may be best sometimes. So I don't want to overstep our boundaries, and I want them to be an independent board, and the reason I bring up the questions, I want those questions asked before, because I sincerely put weight into other people's thought processes, especially our boards that we appoint. The purpose of that is that they're supposed to vet these projects. They're supposed to bring out things well before it comes to the commission. We're supposed to review those things. A lot of times that doesn't happen because the questions aren't asked properly. And so I want to encourage them to have opinions and let us know those opinions.
I will say that I know the chairman gives everybody an opportunity to ask questions. And he doesn't, I mean, on the board, I've never seen him cut somebody off asking questions. Is anybody, any other questions for staff? And he does make sure that all the questions are answered before he calls for a motion on a vote. So a lot of that is, they just, it could be something comes up after the vote, and but if it's there, if you have a question, there's no such thing as a dumb question, ask it.
Right, I agree.
Get everything on the
Yep.
table, and then let it go, because there's not much more the chairman can do other than say, anybody else got a question?
Yeah, right.
If no one says anything, it's time to move on.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Well, I just wanted to get that off my chest and wanted to speak to the commission about it. So is there anything further for this commission?
Well,
Yes,
based
sir.
on my brief research on Google, you can ask for a motion to be reconsidered at the end of the meeting as long as there's no further business before the commission. And then you can also ask for the motion to be reconsidered at the next meeting.
But only if you're voting on the prevailing side.
And it will create a question, because you got notice issues. For sure, some of these things, whether it's a variance or a rezoning, we may have a notice requirement. So to ask that to be reconsidered at the next meeting when there's been no notice given.
And that's what it says. If there's time certain things, then you can't do it.
Yeah. So the best thing to do is, and I can mention it during the meeting, is just make sure any question, any comment, raise it. It doesn't matter if you think it's not a good one, raise it. Put it on the table. It may spur some discussion, get everything out, and then once the vote's over, the only thing that we can, to prevent this from occurring, is the chairman say there's no discussion. Once we're going on next one, no more discussion, but that prevents the ability for a discussion to occur that would result in a motion for reconsideration at that meeting. So, I don't know what's right or wrong.
Well, I used to see in commissions in the past, during our comments, commissioners would backpedal and try to explain their vote one way or the other to the public that was here. So,
Yeah.
What happens if you have a discussion, an item that's noticed, there's a vote, people leave. And then all of a sudden they do a motion for
Bring it back up.
reconsideration. What do you do?
Right.
Now you got some type of a notice issue. So it's not, the best thing is get every single question answered before we go on to the vote. And I'm comfortable in saying what I've observed with the chairman is he does that. He gives everybody an opportunity. I've never seen him cut off a board member, asking a question. But I mean, he does have that rule. If you're opposed, if he wants to hear opposed, don't come up and speak for, or vice versa. He does have that rule. I would agree. I acknowledge. I've heard that for a long time. So, but it's a tough thing. So,
All right. Anything further? All right. Thank you all. Have a great evening, and this meeting is adjourned.
all right, from Coffin Mark.